Alrighty, boys and girls, let's go ahead and make a key solved using the quadratic formula. Alright, in order to use the quadratic formula, I need to have it in what's called standard form, which I have now accomplished. Now, A is 10, B is negative 3, C is negative 6. So I have x equals the opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, or root, b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So that means I have x equals 3 plus or minus, that's going to be 9, and then 4 times 10 is 40, times 6 is 240, but that's going to be a plus because I have, let me use my little laser here, I have the negative 4 and the negative 6, and a negative make a positive, so then this thing here is going to be plus 240, and then 9 plus 240 is 249, over 2 times 10 is 20. I can't do anything with 249, it is not a perfect square, so I'm done. That is my answer, right here, done. Using the most efficient method. Alright, so x squared minus 4x plus 3. Well, I can't use square roots because of that 4x, so let's see if I can factor. Can I come up with numbers that multiply to 3x squared and add to negative 4? I sure done can. That's going to be minus 3x minus 1x plus 3. Now you just groupy group. So you look at these two, and you can take out an x minus 3. You look at these two, and I want to have an x minus 3 here, so I've got to put a minus 1 there. So that means I'll have x minus 1, x minus 3 equals 0. Now, I'm not done, because I have to solve these two equations. So I have to write two equations, x minus 1 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. You're doing that because you have two things multiplied together, and they equal 0, until one or the other, or both, are 0. So to solve the x minus 1 equals 0, I add 1. Solve the x minus 3 equals 0, I add 3. I'm done with those two. Booyah. Next one. Maybe I just, let's see, how would you guys think about this? I think what's most common is you'd look at it and you'd say, all right, I have an x to the negative 6 and x to the 8th. Since I have the same base, I'll just add the exponents. So leave the 5. Negative 6 plus 8 is 2. Why did 6? That's one way to do it. This next one, I think I'm going to clean up inside the parentheses first. So I have, maybe I'll just move those negative exponents first, because those scare me. That's a lot of 3's. So x cubed times x cubed is x to the 6th. So I have x to the 6th on the top. That's 3, but that's to the 1. I'm going to write that in there, just so I don't forget. And now, this 3 needs to come in. Oops, it's to the 6, to the 1, and to that 3. So that's going to be x to the 6th cubed. So 6 times 3 is 18. X to the 18th. And then 3 cubed, which you could also write as 27 if you wanted to. And y, and 3 times 3 is 9. Done with that one. This next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to match up like terms. So I'm going to put x cubed here, minus 13x here, and minus, oops, I forgot the x, and then minus 14. So I kind of lined them up, so get rid of that. So I'm adding, so 10 plus 1 is 11x cubed. 5 minus 13 is negative 8x. And 5 minus 14 is negative 9. This one, I have to distribute. I have to go, pew, 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 whoop, whoop, whoop. So, 3x times negative 3x squared. 3 times 3 is negative 9. X times x squared is x cubed. 3x times 7x is 3 times 7 is 21. X times x is x squared. 3x times 6, 3 times 6 is 18, and then bring along the x. Then you got to do it with the other ones. 7 times negative 3, that's negative 21. Which, of course, I wrote a 7. Silly, silly, silly. Negative 21, x squared. 7 times 7 is 49x. And then 7 times 6 is 42. So negative 9x cubed. 21x squared minus 21x squared, that goes away. 18 and 49, so that's 59, 67 x, and then 42 doesn't have anything to add to it. That's that first page. Do you want to see the whole thing? The whole first page, I done did it right there. Did you get them all right? I hope so. Alright, now we got to do some graphing. So, we have, this thing is already factored for me. So I need to find the x-intercepts. So to find the x-intercepts, I make y equal to 0. So if y is 0, then what I wind up doing is I write 3x plus 7 equals 0, and x minus 5 equals 0. And I solve both those. 3x minus 7 equals 0, that's going to be negative 7/3. Subtract the 7, divide by 3. X minus 5 equals 0, it's going to be 5, because you add the 5. To find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. So to plug in 0 for x, you're going to do negative 3, 0 for x, 0 for x. So that's going to be 21 times 5, which is 105, and a negative times a negative, so that's 0, 105. So now, I'm going to make this bigger so I have a little more space. I have a negative leading coefficient, that's the negative 3, and I have two factors. So that means it's even degree and it's negative. So it's going to look like this when I graph it. So I have negative 7/3 and 5 and 105. Alrighty, I got interrupted there, so let's see if I can finish this. We have the x-intercepts. We have the y-intercept. We know it's going to open down, so it's going to go whee. Got it. And next. So same idea for this one. I'll make it big because I'm going to need it that way. I said each of these equal to 0. This one. If that one's equal to 0, then x is 6/5. If this one is equal to 0, subtract the 2. That's negative 2. Divide by 3. So negative 2/3. 0. And then for this one, it's just negative 5. So I'm just going to plot those right away. Oops. Negative 5, negative 2/3, and positive 6/5. The y-intercept, so that means I plug in 0 for x, so I'll show you that. 0 for x, so that's 5 times 0, so that goes away. 3 times 0 goes away, and 5. And then that's going to be negative 30. Negative 30. So somewhere down here, negative 30. So then my graph, I look at this thingy here, and then I have 1 and 1 and 1, so that's 3. So that's positive odd. So that means it's going to look something like that. Oh, that's my graph, right? Like that. So I'm going to graph that. Really helps to make those noises. Next one. Factor to find x-intercepts, sketch a graph. Note all intercepts. Got it. So, let's see. Well, I can take, if I'm factoring to solve for the x-intercepts, I can take an x squared out. Note, I made y equal to 0. Then I have x squared minus 5x plus 4. So then I'll have x squared equals 0. And I'll have x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. So I need numbers that multiply to 4 and add to negative 5. Oh, that's just negative 4 and negative 1. So that's going to be x minus 4, minus 1, x minus 4. So that's going to be x minus 1, x minus 4. So x is going to be 1 and 4. So 1, 4. The y-intercept, oops, I forgot 0. Forgot to finish this one. X equals 0. The y-intercept is going to be 0 because I plug in 0 for x. And then the behavior of this thing, I look at the number in front here where there's a 1 imaginary there. So that's 1, positive, and then 4. So that's like x to the 4, so it's going to look like that. So I have to wind up and up. Now this one's tricky. You won't have one like this on your quiz. Because what you have to do is you have to bounce off the 0, doing, and then go through the 1 and go up. You bounce off the 0 because it shows up twice because of the x squared. You will not have one like that on your quiz. You'll just have to go through them. Next one's already has 4 pieces, so we group. So x squared, x minus 5, and then negative 3x minus 5. So I'm going to have x squared minus 3, x minus 5. So x squared minus 3 equals 0. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 3. Don't forget the plus or minus. That would be bad. Then have x minus 5 equals 0, so x equals 5. So let me plot those. 5, root 3, negative root 3. And then I plug in 0 for x to find the y-intercept, and that's 15. 15. So then I graph it. I gotta look, it's x cubed and it's a positive, so it's just gonna go wee, wee, and I'm done. And make sure you put your answers for your intercepts down here, so that it's nice and organized for the poor reader. And I will show you that entire page once again.